Hey, this is Jay.
And this is Cray.
Welcome back for another episode of the J&Cray Show, Real Talk.
Yes, let's go. Hey, Jenny, how are you doing today?
Hey, Craven, I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm doing pretty good as well.
So what do you want to get into today?
Let's talk about R. Kelly. He's back in jail again. Now he's facing federal charges for sex trafficking.
Sex trafficking. Wow, that's a heavy charge. I'm not going to say I'm shocked, but I do want to say that he didn't reach fame because he wasn't liked. I like his music, even though I know about the charges. I still like his music. This is going to be a problem.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a problem for him now because it's more serious charges than before. I mean, we're familiar with the history of R. Kelly, things that he's been accused of as far as the videos or the sex tapes that he's made with younger girls or so at the age, I think, around 13, 14. So he has those that he was already facing that he beat the first time around. So now they're coming along with everything. Everybody's coming forth. Tapes are coming from everywhere. You got women that are now testifying. You got the documentary on surviving R. Kelly. You got a lot of ladies coming forth talking about how he's done so much damage to so many families and so many other individuals just because of his reckless behavior. So he is currently being confined. They're not at all in any way trying to release him before the actual court date. So now it's more of a serious matter. I think you took a look at the documentary on saving R. Kelly. I mean, what do you think? I mean, with everything that's going on, I mean, this guy had to have been doing something that just wasn't right, you know?
The documentary, I'm going to say I watched it twice because the first time I watched it, I was basically in shock. I guess for years, people have been whispering about R. Kelly, young girls. Sometimes the lyrics of his songs, you can hear, hints of things that you allude to being, between a man and a woman that are grown. But now looking at it, I think they were really melodies and songs about what he had going on.
Yeah, definitely. We played the R. Kelly song in the intro, not in any support of R. Kelly, but that was just going to be the major thing we were going to start off our podcast with, which we know everybody has been a fan of R. Kelly. I mean, we grew up listening to R. Kelly. I mean, even younger, growing up listening to the music. At the time I started first listening to R. Kelly, I know in full detail and everything he was talking about as far as, the bump and the grind and this, that, and the other. We were just thinking, it was just music. It was just it was catchy. But, thinking back on his music, I never had any idea, thought that he was doing things with little girls. I'm going to say pretty much, women that, haven't even fully developed yet, in my opinion. So
that's kind of what is a hard pill to swallow. It's sort of reminiscent, of Michael Jackson. I hate to say, because we kept hearing, stirrings of rumors. He settled this suit, he settled that suit, and apparently, R. Kelly has also paid money, lump sums of money to people. It seems to be an ongoing theme as of late that people are starting to be exposed. So I can't say that I'm as shocked as when I first heard about Michael and saw the Leaving Neverland documentary, but I will say that I'm more bothered by R. Kelly because it just, to me, is obvious that he had help doing what he was doing for years. Okay. There's no way that you can have all these young girls at your mansion, in your studio, a bed in the middle of your studio, and young girls around, and people don't put two and two together. I mean, I've been in studios before, and I've done work before in studios, and I can honestly tell you that I have never seen a bed in a studio. I have seen pull out cots or couches that could be pulled out into a bed, but I've never even seen them opened where you've got, people, in them or anything. I mean, I know sometimes in a studio you can work, 24 hours, at a time, recording and re-recording and editing and whatnot, but an actual dedicated bed in a studio is kind of creepy and crazy to me, with young girls in it as well. There's never really a reason for a lot of young honeys to be in a studio, other than, oh, they're in love with the star, they're groupies, whatever you want to call them, little thoughts, whatever the word of the day is. But the ages of them is alarming. And I know that there were grown men working in that studio, and women who knew better. That, if I worked in the studio, I'd be questioning, why are these minors here? Does insurance cover them if they're injured? That's how my mind thinks. And I would definitely be raising flags. I don't know if they were just being paid too well, or they were in awe and mesmerized by being in the presence of a music great. I don't know. But somebody somewhere along the line was helping him.
Yeah, that's a good point you brought up. And then now I'm thinking back to the Surviving R. Kelly series, in which the guy confessed that one of his managers, which he's already being charged for the wrong part that he's done. So I truly believe this time around, R. Kelly's definitely going to face everything's going to come down on him. But yeah, his manager, uh, the same manager who had actually forged some documents stating that once the word got out that Aaliyah was pregnant, he came to him and told him what was going on, and they forged up a marriage, whatever you call it, and they even moved Aaliyah's age up, because I think at the time she could have been, what, 13 or something,
Yeah,
somewhere.
yeah, it
Back,
was a real crazy young age. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, but I think on this marriage thing that they contracted, this guy forged or whatever, she was like 15 and he was like 27. So this particular guy, and he had help with many other people as well, because from the document or documentary, he had women like in several other different rooms, and they couldn't communicate with each other. Like, I think one lady was saying that she tried to communicate with another one of the ladies or one of the girls in the house, but they weren't able to. So I'm pretty sure he had people there stationed at the house to make sure that these women were following out his orders. Like, they couldn't go to the restroom. It was stated by one of the ladies that there was a bucket in the room, so I guess they had to maybe do bowel movements or whatever, in the room or whatever. But they had the
Right.
actual permission to even eat or do anything.
Yeah, that's really creepy to me. That alludes to, an environment where somebody has ultimate domain and control. And you cannot have little cronies, working under you and working in your employ without them knowing and taking note of what is going on. There's just no way that's possible. You know, um, Not to be graphic, but I mean, buckets for defecation and urination, that's disgusting. And I'm pretty sure other people found that disgusting and offensive. And I don't think it's easy to hide something like that. That to me is a little Howard Hughes strange. I mean, that's crazy to me.
Yeah, it's just his whole system of how he mapped out this thing. Like this guy that's saying that he had a problem reading, he's got some type of learning disability, but this guy seemed to be very intelligent. He was very gifted artist, but it's like he used certain things to play on women or play on young girls at that time. Like, he pretty much masterminded this thing. Like how do you get five different women or so, just for example, could have been more than that, to live in a house and know that, okay, this guy, he may be sleeping with me tonight, but he's gonna sleep with her later on, or sleep with her. Like, how do you get a woman to? Well, I know most of these, they were not women at the time,
Right.
but how do you get someone to understand, like, hey, this is what I do. I got, several other women here. We all love each other. We all whatever. It's like, how did you do that? And even in some cases, if you looked at the documentary, like even after he had went to court, there were still women that he met after that, and they knew that this man went to court. And of course, he was not found guilty of the charges. But in your mind, you still have to think like, is there some type of possibility or so? Even when you actually begin to date him and you come into this house that other women are there, how could they just like not even just lose complete thought of everything they've heard and what they're seeing and still like, well, I'm fine with this. I'm going to accept that he has multiple people that he deals with, or multiple women,
Hmm.
and the fact
Um,
that he
yeah.
even was like doing threesomes.
Well,
We're all
yeah, the threesome thing, yeah, that's another level. But I'm going to say this as a woman myself. I know when I was younger, I was extremely naive. And I think that, and I'm almost positive and certain that the reason he had multiple young girls was because he worked them and he wasn't on the same level with every one of them. Like, I believe, I can't remember her name, but one of them was saying, the one of them that had lived in his house with him for years said that, she was a virgin. And he said, well, that's good because then I can, train you. Okay. So he didn't sleep with her, have intercourse with her immediately. He worked up to it. So I think part of his excitement and part of his gratification and satisfaction, satiation, if you will, sexually, is learning and training and teaching these girls how to please him and how to do it with him, quote unquote. He has a methodology to what he's doing. He uses young girls because that's when they're ripe. That's when you pick them. That's when they're good to train because they're naive. And I mean, I know that when I was 14 years old, I was extremely naive, and quite frankly, I could have been trained, quote unquote, in a sexual manner because I was clueless. I didn't know anything, and I'm speaking from honest, experience. As a grown woman now, I'm telling you that I remember being 14, and I know that if I was in love with a, music icon, listen, I'm going to trust him. I'm going to think this is the way it's supposed to go and this is what we're supposed to do. I'm going to think that. And I'm going to do, what he wants because I want to please him and I want to be with this great icon. That's just me personally, but I'm pretty sure that's what's going on with these young girls as well.
so yeah. I guess he knew who he could come after, but even in the documentary, there was some women that were later on as time progressed. He started, having relations with older women. Like I think there was a woman on there that was like 29, maybe 30, and she still went along with this whole thing that he had going on. And it's like it's kind of mind-boggling to me
Mm-hmm.
because I mean I'm not a female or whatever, but
Mm-hmm.
all of these accusations are going on, and then you still are taking part to deal with this man. And then one of the ladies she broke down, started breaking down, or so
Mm-hmm.
after she had realized that there were tapes out there with him peeing on somebody or whatever.
Right.
She couldn't believe that, oh, this was the girl that I saw such and such. And I think she still continued to deal with R. Kelly. So I understand R. Kelly is at the he's the he's definitely to blame here,
Well,
but you
yeah.
also have to blame some of these women for being naive, especially the older women. And then just looking at the whole thing, I understand like you're 13, you're 14, you're still trying to figure things out. But
Mm-hmm.
when you see other women around you, and you see what's going on
Mm-hmm.
at some point in time, and you'll be like, well, I should break away from this. I should get out of this. And maybe they got in too far,
Mm-hmm.
and we're enjoying a certain part of it as well.
I'm going to just say this. I don't believe it was a quote unquote normal male female dichotomy in the relationship. What I think happened was the woman you're referring to, I cannot remember her name, it escapes me. I apologize, but I believe that actually in the documentary she said when she found out and verified the girl was actually younger than 16 years of age, uh, she lost it, and that's when she knew she had to get out, and she felt violated and she felt betrayed because he lied to her, and she knew that that was wrong. But I think that's her, just me personally, I think it's her way of justifying the fact that I believe she was in an abusive, emotionally and mentally and physically, relationship and she was beaten down. When you beat a person down and it's an unequal playing field and there's a master and there's a quote unquote slave in a relationship, you cannot function normally. She wasn't, functioning for years within the confines of normalcy. So to incorporate a third party into their sexual activity, maybe she wouldn't have done that in a healthy relationship, but with R. Kelly, this is R. Kelly, this is her master. She is going to do this. And then when she finds out the girl may be younger, she questions it. She still hangs on. And then because it's R. Kelly and he has control over her and she believes he's so powerful, I think she's stuck for a while and cannot immediately escape and get out of it. I think it's an abusive mentally relationship where he controls these victims, these women, and I'm calling them victims because I believe they are. At what point do you become completely responsible as a minor for your actions? I don't believe that you can ever hold a minor completely responsible. Their brain is not even done growing yet. Okay, so the manipulation and whatnot that was going on with him was a high level of manipulation. He's an expert at it. He can read people. He can't literally read words, but he can read people.
Exactly.
Yeah, so he's actually a mastermind at manipulation, obviously.
And then also the parents as well, just being, I don't understand. I don't even know if it's naive or being foolish. I mean, I don't care. Like, I know there were two parents there, and one of the girls, she was, pressing them to let her work with R. Kelly because she was saying could be my chance. This could be my big opportunity to pursue my singing career. I understand all of that, but once there are already allegations out, which I think they were back in, what was it, like 2002 when he went to court.
Right.
Once that's already out, and you have the knowledge of that, then I think that you would, as a parent, you would have some type of understanding that I don't care what opportunity this could possibly be. We're not dealing with this man. Now I know also it was also stated that she was going to do it anyway. So it's like you got the parents there, and then you got uh, the girl or the woman as well being just completely foolish about dealing with someone that has a history, just because you feel it's your opportunity to uh, to break into your career. I mean, why would you deal with an individual who already has a bad history? I don't think they would
Mm-hmm.
help your career or enhance it. I think it's going to cause an issue. And it,
Um, well, let me just say this in defense of the parents on that. I kind of have a feeling and a sneaking suspicion that because he was found not guilty of those charges and they were cleared, I think that they felt, well, they were cautious, but their daughter insisted, and that's an example of parents trying to be friends, not parents to their children. Because I remember the mother said she was making demands, and she warned them, and I had an issue with that. I think the parents aren't culpable. They're not accepting culpability as parents. You are the sole provider for your child until that child reaches the age of 18. Uh, there is no excuse for you to allow your child to manipulate you in such a way that it's a detriment to he or she. And that is an example of what happened there, in my personal opinion. I'm sure psychologists would break it down and say, they were trying to make up for something that they felt that they lost in their childhood and they wanted to give her everything or whatever. But so it comes from a good place. But at the same time, you're doing a disservice to your child by allowing the child to go ahead, even though, you know, he was cleared of charges, but you still were suspect because you didn't want your child to be hurt or harmed. But yet at the same time, your child is demanding things from you, making demands on you. It's an issue where not just one person is at fault. A lot of things come into play. And although I do feel that, I have a little bit of anger and I'm annoyed with the parents, I also know that they loved their children and they perhaps were trying to give them everything they wanted. And that's the downfall here.
yeah, that does come into play, but I just think that overall, you don't overlook these things. Now, me and you, an individual that has no connect, like we're, whenever he, was in it, was I guess proven to be innocent of the charges back in around 2002. Individuals that are away from this whole thing can be like, okay, well, he didn't get convicted, so I guess he didn't do it. uh, People on the outside, we can look at that because he doesn't affect our lives, or we don't have any relations or relationship or anything of the nature with him. But when you're coming into dealing with this person, I just think that it's kind of hard to just overlook that. But as you stated, parents were trying to do the best for the child at the time. They really didn't know because R. Kelly was so clever in making them feel comfortable that yeah, we're just going to be strictly business. We'll bring it to the studio and we'll do blah blah blah. But I mean, like you said earlier, the dude had a freaking bed in the studio. So
Right.
we had to know that. Of course, I mean, you work long hours at a studio, you got to rest and stuff, but a bed, and then you got other backup singers or this other backup singer that was saying that she saw him like, pretty much engage in a sexual act with the girl right in the studio room.
Right.
So it's just wild.
I want to kind of also say something about this whole situation, and that is that isn't it interesting that these were all young girls of color, and isn't it fascinating that, in my opinion, when young Caucasian females or males are affected in some way or possibly kidnapped for as sex slaves or molested or something of that nature, you constantly are bombarded on the news with this. And the only time we heard about this was when the tape came out with him, and then it kind of faded away. You'd hear whispers here and there, but you thought, well, he was not convicted of those charges, it's a bunch of BS, whatever. But I found it interesting that he got to do it so long. And I,
Yeah,
I concluded that, yeah, it's because they were young women of color, I'm pretty sure. And another thing is this: the fact that he himself is a black man, okay, loved by a lot of people in the world for his great music, okay. I mean, family reunions, barbecues, you're going to hear it. And I don't know about it now, but, um, the fact that he was, a brother out there and he was successful, that also worked in his favor for what he was doing because, you know, there's a tendency to protect icons in the black community that everybody loves and they associate with good times and family get-togethers, reunions, cookouts, all that, because that's important in the black community. And I really have issue with the fact that for some reason, people cannot see past, oh, that's a black man or that's a black woman with so much success out there. And they're sometimes, I think, afraid to blow a whistle because they don't want to take something else from black culture, if you will, the immediacy of black culture, the modern day black culture. And it kind of makes me wonder, are we all a little bit at fault for this? You know what I'm saying? Because it could have come out that, oh, they're just trying to keep a good black man down. They're trying to take away from a black man who can't even read and write, and he built himself up from the ghetto, and he's successful. They're trying to take a brother down. That type of mentality. You know what I'm saying? So there's a couple different scenarios going on in my head when I think about the overall outcome of this and the future outcome of the new charges. I wonder. It makes me wonder. Sometimes being such an inclusive society can also cause a lot of detriment and cause things to happen behind closed doors that don't come to light for many, many years later, if you know what I'm saying.
yeah, there's definitely so many things with this thing, which I think he's actually, I think 2008 when he was first faced with the he was found guilty on he was not found guilty on the 14 counts
Hmm.
that were
Hmm.
against him in 2008.
Okay.
But even with R. Kelly, I mean, we could also talk about Jeffrey Epstein. He's also been someone that's also been back and forth in court with his type of sex trafficking or what he had going on with young girls at the time. Which in his case, what he was doing was he started out he was paying. young girls to come by and give him a massage, which he was paying like $200.
Like come by his home?
Yeah, to come by his home,
Okay.
give him a massage, and then he would somehow smooth into the sexual acts and fondling and all kind of things. But he would use, like, he had like a network. Like he would use the same girls he was dealing with to go get more girls, and like these girls would continue to be coming. It would be at his place like a revolving door. Say 2 or 3 times a day, he would have girls coming back and forth into his house.
Two or three times a day.
Yeah, it was stated that it was like 2 or 3 times a day.
So he would be engaged in sexual activity with minors or just young women?
Minors, whereas
Okay, so my question is this.
Kelly 13, 14.
Okay, you said children. So you said they were giving massages. It started that way. But my question is this. I know that you can have masseurs come to your home. Okay, you can pay or you can go there. But I know someone who gets a masseur to come to his home for, a back injury he has, for example. And she's an adult and she comes, he pays her, whatever. And she's a professional. Now, my question is what 12, 13, 14-year-old professional masseur do you know of that works and comes and does house calls? That's my question.
Right,
What,
none at all. And I'm
okay.
so they had no idea of what they were doing. But this was what one of the ladies, which I think this was an older lady that started this thing off for him. She would tell these younger girls or whatever, that okay, this guy likes to have a lot of do massages. He'll pay you $200. Now you got to think. I mean, like, I guess the naiveness is there because you're 13, 14 years old, and somebody said,
Hmm.
because somebody said in one of the YouTube videos or whatever that I saw, that she was thinking like, oh yeah, that's a lot of money. $200 at 13, 14 years old is a lot of money. So
Right.
let me go do this.
Right.
So it's just, it's,
Okay, so let me ask you this because I'm not really familiar. I've heard his name in the news, but I'm not familiar with the logistics of it. Who is this woman? So you're telling me this is somebody who befriended him, was his friend, or worked for him on some capacity, and she's the one who got him into, he, I guess, recruited or got the young girls to
yes,
service him.
her. Yeah, it's like he used her to get this thing started, to get this whatever you want to call it, almost like he was probably a prostitution thing going on with
Mhm.
minor children going on. It's like she helped him get it started, or so. From what I've seen. Now, it could be some more pieces there to put it, you know, completely
Mhm.
together, but that's one of the parts into how he started this foolishness.
Now, Mr. Epstein, I believe he made money in hedge funds and whatnot. Is that correct? So he was wealthy?
Yeah, he's wealthy. He's like a millionaire. This
Okay.
man, well, over, yeah, he's a millionaire.
I'm just wondering where the parents of these children were when this was going on.
That's what it all comes back to. What were the parents thinking? But like I said, you don't know everything as a parent what your child is getting to. You think that, oh, they're going to school and they're doing what they're supposed to do, but they could be skipping class. They could be anywhere. So
Right.
I don't know how much awareness or so that the parents knew as to what was going on at all.
Well, children are crafty. Children can lie. I know. They can sneak out the house too. They can, that's understandable. You have mostly two income families, for the most part, middle class America, and I'm assuming these girls were from middle class America. They weren't wealthy girls. Um, so they probably came from, either single homes where the parent worked, or, two parent homes where both parents worked full time. And so they probably, checked in with their parents or said, I'm going over to, Katie's house to study or whatever, but they were actually given massages. That's probably in some of the cases, at least. I'm not trying to justify it, but I know you can't know everything about your child and you can't be on your child 24 hours a day. But I mean, I personally would wonder where this extra income is coming from. What are these girls doing with
Yeah,
this
no,
money?
that's a good point. Where are you
Yeah.
getting this money from,
Right.
especially $200 to perform these acts every time? And I don't know if I guess he was paying them every time, 2, 3 times a day. If you're the same one chosen to come back, then you made like $600 that day. I mean, yeah, that's
Wow.
that would be very curious of.
So what is the end result, or is this still going on in court with Mr. Epstein? Well, what
Yeah,
is the?
he's also being held too until the court date. They both, like, he's considered to be a flight risk, which I think he was willing to put up his mansion and one of his planes, like $100 million bond that he wanted
Wow.
supposed to get out. I guess he doesn't want to be locked up until the court date. Which even R. Kelly himself, he was denied to be any type of bail.
Hmm.
They just stated that he was a threat to his society because you let these guys out. I mean, they still can do their thing. Still can have women come by. I mean, even if they're on house arrest or whatever, they don't have to leave. These women are coming by. They're there. So I think it was a good choice by the judge to make sure that either one of these guys could post any type of bail or anything. But even with R. Kelly, I mean, recently he's asked for a computer. He wants to continue to finish up an album that he was working on while he's
Well,
locked up.
okay. So I don't even think he should be able to be granted a computer to finish his work. His whole life needs to
Crazy.
stop revolving. Yeah.
I mean, aren't you getting enough? I mean, you already.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they're not in the same area with the real, the other. I won't say real, but the other inmates, because
Right.
I don't think either one of them would survive. With what they've done, I mean, I'm pretty sure someone would definitely want to do harm to them.
Well, I mean, there's probably, somebody, waiting in line for both of them. You're right about that. I'd be more worried if I was Mr. Epstein, but,
Mr. Epstein, he's the big thing because he's a hedge fund guy. Now, this guy's had association with Trump, other presidents, former presidents as well.
so
And
what that tells me is he's got a lot of money. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, because he's got, I think the first time around that he was brought in or had received some charges. Now, he got the U.S. attorney, one of the U.S. attorneys at the time, to pretty much create like a crazy deal for him where he got off and didn't have to do anything. I think he had to do like maybe 13 months. And then like the people that possibly could have known about what was going on, they all didn't have to come forth again and bring forth any testimonies. Like I don't, it's some type of real bogus.
Because he admitted to it, you mean?
Well, I, yeah, I guess he admitted to some things,
Well, I
but
wonder if that was so he's already a previously convicted sex offender then.
yeah, that was one of the parts of the deal. He had to go ahead and register himself as a sex offender, but
Wow.
he only got 13 months. And then one of the U.S. attorney at the time of Florida, I think, had came up with this crazy deal where this man only had to serve 13 months and go on about his business and just register as a sex offender.
Oh my
So the thing
gosh.
about him is that there could be a lot of other people that probably they're assuming, and what I'm hearing is that they're thinking that some more people probably knew about what this guy had going on. Maybe
Oh
Trump,
yeah, yeah.
maybe some of the ex presidents or so. So it's bigger. It's like, I mean, him and R. Kelly, they're both idiots and
Hmm.
just terrible, individuals. Can't, it's not one to judge anyone, but it is what it is. I mean, what they've done is out here, and it's
Right.
you want to.
My question is this. I'm wondering, okay, and I don't know, but I know the definition of a pedophile. And to meet the criteria for the definition of a pedophile, there are a couple things physically that have to be going on. And one of them is no pubic hair. That's what's actually classified as pedophile. It's prepubescent in body. So that means before puberty hits. So I wouldn't even classify either one of them as pedophiles. And I've heard pedophile being used for both of them. You're talking about teen girls who have breasts and have, genital hair and are menstruating. So they're womanly. However, I've heard the word pedophilia being thrown around, and I think there's a misconception about that. Even it doesn't make it um, any less intrusive and horrifying as a crime. But I'm just saying that I think that's one thing that's a little confusing to people when they hear about R. Kelly and they hear about this Mr. Epstein. Um, I like, for example, take Michael Jackson. What he was accused of was pedophilia because some of those boys, I believe one of them said it started at age 7. Um,
Wow.
so that is prepubescent. So my question is, I'm wondering, since it's not prepubescent, it's not true pedophilia, if the charges, they're obviously going to be lesser, but I'm wondering if that had some sort of component at play with the 13-month sentence that Mr. Epstein received. Um, and also another factor could be for R. Kelly and Mr. Epstein, the age of consent state by state. Some states are 15, some are 16, some are 17. It varies. So that also has a weight on the sentence too. But just to know that The brain is not fully functional yet, and these are children. They may have gone through puberty, but they're children. And it's just very disturbing to me that somebody would engage in sexual activity. I don't know if Mr. Epstein has children. I know R. Kelly does. How would he feel if somebody did that to one of his children when they were younger?
And that's the thing here. I don't know if he has any kids. I mean, we know R. Kelly has children,
Right,
and it's just troubling because I'm pretty sure definitely R. Kelly wouldn't want anything to happen to his young daughter, or even to
right.
anything going on with his son. And I just think that there's got to be something wrong with you very mentally. There's got to be something there going on to where you'll just be like, especially when you're entertainer or a rich guy or whatever hedge fund guy as Epstein. Like you
Hmm.
could possibly get any woman that you wanted. I mean, you could order a high dollar prostitute if you wanted
Hmm.
to of age,
Right.
or someone younger, say 20 years old. Why a younger girl that hasn't even been fully developed yet? Why do that? Why prey on somebody? Why be a predator for these type of girls?
Well, I think that has to do with control. Let's talk about the hedge fund, Mr. Epstein guy. That's very competitive. You have to be an alpha male to be in that and be successful. And so he probably day in, day out is feeling powerful and feeling his own hype and believing it. And he more than likely chooses these young, naive girls because he likes that control. That's part of his sexual gratification is the control factor. Yes, you can engage in that with women, but women are not naive. They can pretend to be during a sex act, but they're truly not naive. He wants that true naivety and he wants that innocence, and he wants to be the one that teaches the girls, just like R. Kelly. He said to one of the girls, "That's good. You're a virgin. I can train you." You know what I'm saying? So it's it's about control. It's about control. I think with R. Kelly, people want to talk about the reasons he did what he did, the reasons he is the way he is, and I do believe that his sister molesting he and his younger brother, I believe that
I
has
was
an
thinking about.
impact. Yeah, I think that that has an impact on him. He wants to relive that and be in control because he derives some pleasure from it. Uh, you know, Being a person who has gone through that myself, um, as a child, um, it's not always painful. And then you feel guilt, survivor's guilt of obtaining some sense or level of satisfaction or pleasure from that act. As an adult, you deal with that and grapple with that. And it is not your fault. It's a natural thing to derive pleasure from an act, but you didn't have control in this situation. And I think with him, he has control in these scripts that are flipped with these young girls, if you will, in that he's the one in control now. He's the one that is the dominant individual, and he is controlling and masterminding the sexual act, and he's reliving the pleasure principle of what happened to him when he was molested, probably more than likely. Um, and that is a sad thing to me because through his struggle and damage that was done to him in the molestation, he has damaged and injured other girls and other people, and it's an ongoing thing. Uh, it's just the curse that keeps on happening because some people have to relive it and act it out, and if they don't get help, that's what's going to happen many times. Not everyone, but many times if you don't seek help for this and you don't have anyone you can confide in and talk to and deal with it and get therapy or have talk therapy with a family member, and have support, then you are going to relive it through new sex acts and endeavors, and it could become an obsession, like I believe it did with R. Kelly. And it's a terrible thing.
Yeah, it all has to be started from somewhere, and I guess what took place in his earlier childhood with his older sister or so is definitely a part of what he decided to do with these younger girls.
Yeah, the deciding factor and some the thing that fueled it and fueled his hunger for it. And I can't remember the young lady's name, but during the documentary on R. Kelly, she had, her mother and father had spoken, and it had shown her video footage of her, and she was dressing as a young boy. And that to me was very alarming and disturbing on many levels. But one of them was what I was just speaking of, reliving the act. I believe that he was vicarious.
Hey, I don't want to cut you off, but let's take a quick break right here.
Okay, before the break, we were continuing with R. Kelly. Jenny, you were finishing up a particular thought process. Continue on with what you were saying.
Okay, I was stating that I think he vicariously, through her, relived his molestation experience that he had with his sister as a young boy. And that is why I think that he more than likely, had her dress as a young man, a young boy, because as I stated before, when you're molested, it's not necessarily always painful, physically. There's some gratification there, whether you want there to be or not. Your body betrays you in a sense. And I think that that's very hard for some people to struggle with. Well, most people, unless they have adequate help and therapy. And I think that one of the reasons that his behavior went on for as long as it did is because there's no way it's going to go away or it's going to get better on its own. And he acts out sexually with these individuals, reliving that and being in control because he had no sense of control, no semblance of control whatsoever when his sister molested him. He didn't know what was going on, yet it happened. And to gain composure within himself, this is how he acts out.
Yeah, that was the most shocking thing that I saw, and the most puzzling thing that I couldn't unravel or understand when I was looking at the documentary, as when I saw that the girl had taken on a whole nother form, as if she was a lesbian or so. He had her hair was cut, she was wearing fitted hats backwards. I mean, uh, I saw in the scene where her mother had she was staying at one of the hotels, and her mother like was on. She was determined to get her daughter back, so she came to the hotel, found out where she was staying, and then she came out. She got to see her daughter or whatever, and she was told to come back like around 6 or so to get her. So when she came back, like I guess R. Kelly or one of the people that worked for him had called the police on the lady, saying that she was trying to do something of the nature to basically keep the girl there. But somehow the lady her mother decided to go back or she hung around. And I think the girl came down, she got her daughter back. But it was just crazy, because and the girl was crying. She was really emotional, reuniting with her mother. So in some sense, I don't think every girl wanted to be there. You know, R. Kelly would say that I didn't hold anybody against their will, and that's probably true with some of the women. But it's like in this situation with this girl, she wanted to get out, and her mother was determined. Even though it seems like R. Kelly tried to, or whoever tried to avoid her being able to get back into the hotel or to get her daughter back, in the end, she did. So it's just crazy. I mean, I know we could go on and on about this, but I truly hope that the charges will come down and these two individuals, R. Kelly and Jeffrey Epstein, will receive, what they should for the wrong that they've done.
Right. And I also, in closing, want to say that, I really hope that this can be healing for all of the victims, both Epstein's and R. Kelly's, because this is a situation that is going to affect these young women well into middle age and later in life if they do not get the adequate help. And even if they do get the adequate help, they're going to still at some point have triggers, memories, and it's going to be something that you learn to deal with if you have the proper tools. And I can only hope that the help is going to be provided for them, all of them, across the board, and maybe we can, as a nation, start to take this a little more seriously and stop turning a blind eye to things because we don't want to hear about negativity and negative things. This stuff is happening. It's happening in our world, in our nation, in America, and I think we all need to take better note of things that don't look right, that don't seem or feel right.
Great. And we also always want to extend out to our listeners. You can definitely send us a voice message, just letting us know how you feel about this topic, something that we may have overlooked. You can let us know about, and we'll definitely like to bring those ideas or things to the forefront or to our next.
As always, thanks for listening to the Jay and Craig Show. Until next time.
Yes, you all have a great day.